Hello and welcome back to the Hibs Observer as we look ahead to Thursday's Europa League second round qualifier in Denmark against FC Midtjylland. I'm Liam Bryce, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. Today we have Gisle Thorsen, a freelance journalist who primarily works for Mediano, an expert in Danish football, and he's here to tell us a wee bit more about Thursday's opponents. Just before we get started, as always, folks, a word for our sponsor. The Hibs Observer is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. So start your search today. So, Gisle, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. How are you getting on? How are things?
You're welcome. I'm doing well. We had a busy Sunday in the Super League. We had the season opener. So we had one game on Friday, the champions FC Copenhagen kicking off the season, and then 5 games on Sunday. And I guess the one you will be interested in was the game between FC Midtjylland and Odense, a game that ended in a 3-3 draw. So it was a thrilling match.
Yeah, I mean, something like that on Thursday would get the Hibs fans very much value for money on the trip over to Denmark. I don't know what it would do for their blood pressure, right enough, a 3-3 draw. But yeah, we'll get to the weekend's game. But as we said, we're just kind of here to tell us a wee bit more about FC Midtjylland. Obviously, it's a big occasion for Hibs back in European football, looking to get to the group stage, or rather league phase, as it is now called under the UEFA terminology, for the first time, and that journey starts this week. So, I mean, even just to start us off, what can you tell us a wee bit about the history of FC Midtjylland, because they're really kind of quite a fascinating club.
It is, and I might disappoint some Hibs fans now telling that Herning is not the most beautiful or most interesting city in Denmark. So not a lot to do there, I must say. So a little hint would be maybe to stay in Aarhus and then go a little bit later to the match on Thursday in Herning. But it's indeed an interesting club, FC Midtjylland. It's a merger between 2 clubs, between Herning and Ikast. Ikast is a very small town. They are like renowned for the textile factories there, and that's what made the local football club there very good. But they had some problems in the late 19s. They were difficult to cope with the big Copenhagen clubs, and therefore they made a merger in 1999 between those 2 arch rivals. They didn't like each other, but somehow it happened anyway, this merger. And since then, FC Midtjylland has been quite a club in Danish football. They were in the second best league when they did this merger, but they soon went up to the Super League, and they have been there ever since. In the beginning, they were kind of maybe number 3, 4, 5, or 6 in Denmark. But after some years, they established themselves, and now you can talk about a firm number 2 in Danish football, and they are challenging FC Copenhagen for the first spot. So it's an interesting story. They won some championships. They have success in Europe. They have sold a lot of good players, made a lot of money. So they are a very interesting club, and I guess also because of this data-driven way to do things, they were, after some trouble with the finances, bought by Matthew Benham some years back, the Brentford owner, and he came with all his data and this new way of seeing football. And Midtjylland really excelled in that field. They were the first in Danish football, and suddenly in the transfer market they made some remarkable good business, and that has laid the foundation for the club now. I mean, it's a very well-driven club, rich club as well, successful. And now Matthew Benham has sold some years ago. He sold his shares to a man you might know in Scotland. This guy called Anders Holt Poulsen. He's the richest man in Denmark and in Scotland, because I think he owns quite a bit of land in.
Yeah, I think the biggest landowner in Scotland, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not really a football guy, but I think he has been bitten by this bug football, and now he's quite into football. And also, they invest a lot in the club. Not this transfer window especially, but another transfers window. They have really been ambitious. So it's a club that never sleeps. They have so huge ambition, and the area where they are from, it's a difficult area because the earth, the soil is not very fertile, so it's difficult to get things growing there, and so they have to work very hard for things in that area, and they talk about that all the time, that they are not giving anything from nature, or not in a big city, and so they have to do it themselves, and they do it. They are like they have always a lot of things going on, different ideas. Then they bought this club Mafra in Portugal in the second league, a way to loan out players there, or they had one player in Mafra who was supposed to go to Midtjylland. He didn't go because he was transferred already to Sporting, and they made a lot of money in that. So it's a special club, I would say. Also, there's this family feeling. You will be treated very well when you go there. It's a very nice people, but when it comes to football, they want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've seen that over the past few years. You speak about them as a very, very driven club, obviously a very well-run club. I think probably of most interest to Hibs fans at this point is their performance in Europe, how they've done over the past few years. And I think they're certainly a club that everyone has heard of now, FC Midtjylland, which may not have, obviously they were only founded in 1999, that merger you talked about, but they are a club who I think most football fans will be familiar with, because they are always, they always seem to be involved. They're always there or thereabouts in European competition. So they do have, relative to the size of the club, they do have a good European pedigree.
They have, but they had in the beginning they had some trouble, breaking through in Europe, and it was as if they always somehow messed it up. And in Denmark we talk about paying school money, when you make mistakes. But I think they have paid their school money now, and they don't do those kind of silly mistakes anymore. Not in a big sense. I mean, they had a golden opportunity last season to go to the Champions League. They were drawn against Slovan Bratislava, the worst team in the Champions League. It turned out when they entered the league phase. And they blew it, They were like 10 minutes from going to the Champions League, so they didn't qualify. They were left with the Europa League, but still they managed to get through in the Europa League, and certainly at home they are very strong. Some years back they beat Lazio 5-1, and it's rarely now that FC Midtjylland they don't perform on a European stage. Is it 3 years ago they knocked out Celtic in the Champions League qualifiers? I mean, that's also a statement. So they perform on a consistent high level, like in Danish terms. And I think, of course, they have respect for Hibernian, but I think they would be disappointed if they didn't go through.
Yeah, and just something of interest that you mentioned there, you feel that they're particularly strong at home in Europe?
Yeah, and I can't really, I mean, it's not that the stadium is a fortress and the atmosphere is like a lion's den. I mean, if you went to Copenhagen or if you went to Brøndby, you would see a whole different atmosphere. They have fans. They also have good fans, but they don't have so many as FC Copenhagen and FC Midtjylland. But they feel very comfortable at home, as most clubs do. And last season, in the Super League at least, they were the best home team in the league. I think they won 14, lost 2, no draws at all. Then they had one yesterday in the first league game. Their problems lay on the road last season, and that, I think they would say, was the reason for them not winning the championship. They were only 1 point apart from FC Copenhagen, and internally they have, like, they usually beat Copenhagen when they play in Herning, and then they often get a draw in Copenhagen, and that was also the case last season. But they didn't really quite. I would not say they had a bad season, not at all, because they finished number 2 and only 1 point after the champion, almost 2 points average. But they didn't play as well as you would expect from a top team. But somehow they always seem to find a way, and that's also the story about FC Midtjylland. And even when they don't play well, they can score goals from nowhere.
Yeah. So you mentioned last season there, and obviously just narrowly missing out on winning the league title. So it's obviously, where would you say this sort of Midtjylland squad is at the moment? Is this a team that you feel is coming towards its peak? Is it one that's is it a transitional phase they're in at the moment? Where would you say they're at?
One thing which is very interesting is that they didn't really sell any players this transfer window. They have some big stars who have been, there have been rumors about them leaving FC Midtjylland this summer, but they have not. I think they will make one big sale this summer. I don't know when in the transfer window they will make this sale, because obviously they want to hold on to the squad for as long as possible. But the one who is rumored to be going is the midfielder Oliver Sørensen, who's like a box-to-box, very energetic midfielder, one of their own products. Also played in the Euro 21 under 21 for Denmark this summer. A good player, and he's like next one on the block to be sold. But interestingly, they hold on, so far at least, to Osorio, to Simsia, and most notably Francolino. I mean, he's the informed guy for that team, and I will be surprised if he doesn't score in one of the 2 games against you guys.
Yeah. What more can you tell us about Francolino? Because he was one of the players I was planning to ask you about.
Yeah, it's a funny story, He used to play for Benfica, and I mentioned this connection before between Midtjylland and Portugal with the Portuguese club Mafra, and they have a guy who travels around down there, or a guy called Ove Pedersen, who is a former manager of a lot of teams in Danish Superliga. And he saw this guy playing for the second team, or the youth team for Benfica. He was under 18 at that point. And then somehow they convinced him that he should go to FC Midtjylland. His contract was running out with Benfica, and I think they were a bit pissed and a bit surprised that the Francolino signed on the free transfer for FC Midtjylland, and they put him on the third team. And then he just came to Denmark, and from day one, he's just such a dangerous guy, He just seems to be there where the chances are. I don't know who to compare him with. If I go far back in my memory, I remember a guy called Alistair McCoist, who played for Rangers. He was a goal machine, and Francolino, obviously, he's a different player, but it's more to say that he's just this fox in the box.
Yeah.
And he can score goals from anything, He's he's just there, and he can create them himself. He's kind of a cheeky player. He plays with a smile, but he's not like evil or aggressive. He plays with this smile, not arrogance. It's a smile, and I mean, he also last season he took this very cheeky penalty against Aarhus, where the ref, he whistled, and he more or less he shot on his first step, and the goalkeeper was totally surprised because how can you do that? But that's the guy he is. He's playing with a smile. I think he's kind of a smiling killer, and he will be a very big sale for FC Midtjylland. I would be surprised if they didn't get like around 20 million plus euros for him when they eventually sell him. He's just turned 21.
Yeah, I think the thing that sort of sticks out there is you talk about him as being a player who can, goals can come from nowhere. I think, obviously when you're playing knockout football, two-legged ties, players like that can be unbelievably valuable. So that's obviously, I'm sure Hibs have tried to do their homework on him as they will have done as on FC Midtjylland as a whole. So what can you tell us about, style of play overall? Are they a possession-based side? Are they quite direct? Are they physical, pacey? What can you tell us?
They are quite direct, and that's part of the DNA in that club. They always talk about they don't want to have the ball in order just to have the ball. They are no tiki-taka at all. They like it physical. They like it hard. They like it direct. They like to get a lot of balls into the box, because also data driven. They know if we put a lot of balls into the box, then data show us that we will get the chances. And then they have another ambition. Also speaks a lot about FC Midtjylland and the way they think. They want to be the best set piece team in the whole world. You know? That's quite an ambition. And maybe you heard of this throwing coach, Thomas Grønnemark, who worked with a lot of clubs in England, Liverpool, for instance. He was a little bit ridiculed by some of the English expert who didn't understand why you need a throwing coach. But he helped them. They have the captain, Mads Bech Sørensen, who used to play for Brentford. He can throw a cow over a church tower, as we say in Denmark. He's got it's like a bullet, flying in there. So every time they get a throw in, like near the penalty area, they take up Mads Bech Sørensen, and he will deliver a long throw. And we also see with the corner kicks, it's a big focus area. They have like statistics about where they're lying in the league in this field, and they want to be the best, not just in Denmark, but in world football in that specific area. And you have seen a lot of the set piece coaches from FC Midtjylland. They have been sold or transferred to other clubs. You have this guy who actually worked with Scotland with the long hair, also Aston Villa. Exactly, that's the guy. You have the one Butgereit, who's working with the German national team now, also used to be in FC Midtjylland, and now just some weeks ago they sold. I don't know how much they got for him, but their set piece coach went to Newcastle and is working there now. So they just hired a new one, a guy who used to be national manager for the under-19. But that's just to say this is a very important field for FC Midtjylland, and I guess that Hibs, they know that obviously, but you'll maybe, I don't know if you should be afraid, but now I've said it. Corner kicks and throw-ins, be aware.
Well, Hibs were actually, forgive me, I don't know exactly where they finished, but for a lot of last season they were among the best set-piece sides in the Scottish Premiership. They were, I think, potentially they were either first or second most goals from set-pieces in the Scottish Premiership last season. So it's something
that's good news.
A lot of focus on themselves. So, who knows? Set-pieces could be the thing that ends up deciding the tie. Throwing a cow over a church tower that's a brilliant saying. I'm going to use that some week. I'm going to incorporate that somehow, some way this week. But just finally,
normally we say kick, but when it's FC Midtjylland and this, then it's throwing.
That's it. So just to round us off, obviously we touched on it at the top of the show. Midtjylland opened their Superliga campaign at the weekend with a 3-3 draw. What can you tell us about that game?
What I could tell you is it was hot, but it seemed like Christmas anyway, because they were like giving away Christmas gift, the FC Midtjylland team, as we are not used to. Like after 3 or 4 minutes, the goalkeeper Jonas Lössl was coming out of his goal and completely mistimes a pass, and that was 1-0 to Odense. Then the defender Lee, the Korean, I don't know, he kicked a huge hole in the air instead of kicking the ball, and then it was 2-0 to Odense. Midtjylland came back, equalizing in the stoppage time of the first half, scored twice. Franco Linus, obviously, one of them. And then in the second half, Odense went ahead again after Aral Simsia, a very bright, a very talented, a very gifted player. He was on the bench. He came in and he made a horrendous penalty, and which was converted. So it was 3-2 to Odense before Francolino he equalized, and in the stoppage time, Midtjylland also had the chances to win, but they will be disappointed about this draw, because more or less they handed their opponent 3 goals, and that's not a thing we see every day.
Yeah, well, if it's any sort of precursor to Thursday's game, we could be in for a wee bit of a roller coaster, but we shall see over the next few days. Gisle, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your insight. I'm sure Hibs fans will find it fascinating, a wee insight into Thursday's opponents. Some things to be worried about, some things perhaps to be encouraged about. So we'll see how it goes.
And Francis Tico, he used to play for FC Midtjylland.
Sorry?
Francis Tico, he used to play for FC Midtjylland.
Oh, so he did, yeah. Aye, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a link, and I'm sure you will have a nice day in Denmark, even though the beer is too expensive. And as I told, Herning is not the most exciting place, but if the sun shines, it's a very nice place to be anyway.
Yeah, I think if beer and sunshine, and I think the Hibs fans will be happy. To be honest, I think they'll get on that. So yeah, as I said, thank you again very much for joining us. In terms of the rest of our coverage, this week's folk will be out in Denmark covering the build up to the game. Press conference will be in and around Herning. Do come and say hello if you get the chance, and we'll be at the game. So we're very, very much looking forward to that. You can keep up to date on our website, hibsobserver.co.uk. It's just £1 for 6 months, full access to all our content on there, and then it's free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll have plenty of video content coming from Denmark as well. So yeah, that's all from us today. Thanks again to Gisle for joining us. We're very much looking forward to the game on Thursday. Until then, folks, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Cheers.